Our next presentation will tell us how brands and retailers can prevent coupon fraud. We have three main presenters: Beth Burish, President of Intelligent Clearing Network; John Robertson, EVP of Marketing for Intelligent Clearing Network; and Kit Leonard, President of Brand Technologies. They will be joined by an all-star panel of experts who will take part in a lively discussion. These panelists will include Curtis Jackson of Procter & Gamble, Alex Cota of Kmart, and John Morgan, Executive Director of the Association of Coupon Professionals. Beth, the podium is yours.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today to discuss ways brands and retailers can prevent coupon fraud. For those of you not familiar with ICN, we're a software as a service company providing cloud solutions to retailers and CPGs that include promotion management and real-time point-of-sale fraud and validation services. We're currently connected to approximately 800 retail outlets in both the U.S. and Canada, covering grocery, specialty, and drug classes of trade. And we recently completed an integration with a major point-of-sale provider for convenience stores that will connect us to 34,000 convenience stores. We'd like to take the next 40 or so minutes to discuss how brands and retailers can reduce coupon fraud. And as John did, I would also like to thank our webinar participants and panelists today. Kit Leonard with Brand Technologies will share her expertise on the promotion fraud landscape. John Robertson with ICN will share an example of fraud reductions realized by using real-time positive file validations combined with negative file validations and complete GS1 validations. And also today, as noted, we have Curtis Jackson, Alex Cota, and John Morgan also participating on our panel. Our hope for this session is that everyone walks away with the to-do to make sure your company is doing everything they can to protect themselves against promotion fraud, including real-time positive file validations with connected retailers. Looking at the session, we'll quickly look at what's happening with coupon fraud, review some broad existing steps being taken by retailers and CPGs, and provide some additional ideas on ways that you can combat promotion fraud. Then we'll move directly into our panel discussion and hear from other industry experts on ways to mitigate fraud. As we are all aware, every promotion, whether a paper coupon promotion, a digital promotion, or other promotion, has to be settled between trading partners. With acceptance of every promotion, of course, there are objectives and strategies for both partners that need to be met. Ensuring proper usage of these promotions is key to receiving the full reimbursement and ensuring there is no fraud. Today we see a growing problem with paper coupon fraud. Although the technology exists for real-time point-of-sale validations to actually happen in stores, the full validations are most times completed after the offer has been accepted in stores. And this causes non-payments to retailers and in some cases off-invoice deductions, resulting in partner tensions. Who's going to pay for these unauthorized dollars given to consumers but denied during the back-end process? You may be thinking you really don't have a fraud issue, so I'd like to dive into that a little bit more. Coupon fraud is growing and we see it in the news all the time. It's store employees, it's your neighbor, it's your friends and family on social media who are unwittingly sending you fraudulent promotions. Today it can be anyone, anywhere. Historically, we have thought of fraud in terms of the actual physical condition of the coupon when it is received, but the face of fraud has changed, and Kit Leonard, President of Brand Technologies, will take us through today's promotion fraud landscape. Kit?
Thanks, Beth. Let me just get this slide changed. Okay, so first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak about coupon fraud. I really believe that collaboration and discussion at an industry level will help us combat fraud together. It's such a huge issue that we're all facing in very different ways, so talking about it and being more aware of it is super helpful. So you had mentioned misredemption, previously and gang cutting with those coupon pictures. And for the purpose of this presentation, I wanted to differentiate between the two. So we'll start off with misredemption. So when the common term is misredemption, but how we look at it internally is mainly with retailers. So if we say misredemption from the retailer's perspective, it's typically accidental. They don't validate to the GS1, or they're unknowingly accepting coupons for the wrong item. But then on the consumer's perspective, they're perpetuating misredemption by purchasing large quantities of legitimate coupons on social media, causing those inflated redemption rates, and then that gang cutting that you had showed in the previous slide. And then the other side is what we call malredemption, and we refer to malredemption because of the malicious intent. It's typically criminal. The consumers are using decoding applications to purposely manipulate retailers' point of sale to accept a coupon on something it wasn't intended for, also known as glitching in the fraudster community. And then also it's the creation of counterfeit coupons. So the fraudsters are buying and selling these on social media. So just to kind of determine where we're going, I wanted to explain a little bit about where we've come and the evolution of fraud. So obviously there was coupon fraud before 2012, but 2012 started this trend with coupon fraud on the dark web. And for those who are unfamiliar with the dark web, I like to describe it as an iceberg. So if you think of an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg above sea level is the indexable, searchable part of the internet. So anything that you can really access with a Google search or a web search. And then as you go below that sea level, you start to get into the sort of the deeper, darker part of the web. So the further down you go, typically like the ocean floor in this example, is where we see the dark web, where illicit activities like buying drugs or counterfeit product exist. And in 2012, part of that dark web existence was a person known as Lucas Henderson. And so he created a counterfeit creation guide and shared it on the dark web. Fortunately, he was prosecuted, and we saw a little bit of a shift. So there was still fraud on the dark web, but it tapered a little bit. And then we saw in 2014, which was a lot bigger and stronger, was a vendor on the dark web known as the Purple Lotus. And so we worked with the FBI to identify this seller. Fortunately, he was prosecuted and put into federal prison. But what he had done was he created a software where you could buy the software using Bitcoin, essentially making it an anonymous purchase. And you could create any coupon that you wanted, and it would work at retailers. So once he was prosecuted, fortunately, a lot of the activity on the dark web subsided for a bit. You could still, participate in illicit activities, but because you could get caught for creating and sharing counterfeit coupons on the dark web, the moderators of the forum really shut it down. And then in 2017, we saw the shift to social media. So the creation of Facebook groups and Instagram accounts really rose as the rise of social media rose. So I like, we use this term, the evolution of fraud from dark web to soccer moms. Obviously, the people that are committing these crimes are criminals. They have a criminal background. The soccer mom is just sort of to symbolize that the fraud has really kind of gone mainstream because of the creation and understanding of GS1 data bars and how to manipulate the systems. So as the industry got more involved with what was going on social media, and we had success shutting down Facebook groups and removing Instagram accounts, in 2018, we saw a shift sort of back to the darker part of the internet, and that is with an application called Telegram. So Telegram is an encrypted messaging application, sort of similar to WhatsApp. Why the fraudsters really like Telegram is because it's sort of an anonymous platform. You can use a fake name and an alias. And also, Telegram notoriously does not cooperate with law enforcement, which is appealing to the fraudsters as, obviously, they're trying to evade getting caught. So we're still seeing, a trickle of fraud on many different platforms, but we're focused right now on a bunch of different investigations to take the fraudsters down, as we're all seeing the significant amount of counterfeits that are popping up daily because of that ability of the fraudsters to know how to create their own GS1. So as Beth had sort of touched on, and I'll finish with this, a majority of the fraud that we're seeing is with paper coupons. So typically the high-value consumer fare, print-at-home coupons, et cetera. And as we shift to a more digital landscape within the industry, we anticipate seeing a lot more digital fraud. But right now, a big thing that we're seeing is the fraudsters are creating counterfeit coupons that replicate a retailer's loyalty program. So a consumer or a fraudster is presenting this counterfeit coupon on their mobile device. It's scanning and working, but what happens is, since the retailer doesn't have a paper coupon to submit through the clearing process, and it ends up being shortage and a huge loss for the store that they're not even really aware of because of the scanning. So again, that was super high level. I know we'll dig into more questions at the end, and I look forward to your questions. I think it's back to you, right, Beth?
Yes. Thank you, Kit. I hope you all, after listening to Kit, learned something about what's going on with fraudulent coupons and are convinced, whether you're the retailer, the CPG, or any entity who actually supports CPGs and retailers, that promotion fraud is real, and it's really something that we should understand and work together to solve. Today, and John Morgan will speak to this in more detail, there are standard coupon designs in place for issuers of coupons. We'll hear from, again, John during the panel discussion. He'll give more information on that. But to restate some of the high-level guidelines, keep it simple. The more complex the design of your offer, the more likely it can be misused. Ensure you use GS1 data bars and make sure they're accurate. Limit face values. We usually hear not over $5, although we know that sometimes that's not possible. But again, limit the face values, because the higher the face value, the more they are used fraudulently. And always use expiration date in the data bar. Utilize your existing partners to advise you on barcode design and execution. Getting it right in the design is one of the keys to helping prevent your liability and reduce fraud. So you've thoughtfully designed your coupon, you've made it easy to use, and you put expirations in, you've limited your liability, but you still see fraud is growing. So what's going on? What can you do? We believe that the answer is to increase the use of real-time point-of-sale validations, which is going to include complete GS1 barcode validations, real-time positive file, in conjunction with also negative file validations. And it's also important to be monitoring what's going on social media. And companies like Kit, you may have people internally that work with that, but it's really important that you keep up with what's going on social media, because there are a lot of different, I'll call them chat rooms out there, that talk about how to abuse your coupons. So again, it's really important to keep up with that. If you're a retailer, understand the level of validation that's being performed in your stores. Are you performing complete GS1 validations, or are you doing a partial validation of that code? Do you use the complete counterfeit file that's offered, or do you just use a portion of that? Does your point of sale system have limitations on the number of offers that it actually can house? Do you have resource limitations to keep up with all of the information that needs to be provided to point of sale to keep up with all the validations? What value is being scanned in your stores versus what are you seeing being submitted in the back-end process? Do you know which stores are causing your variance? Do you know which stores are accepting fraudulent offers that today end up being denied? Are you using positive file and negative file validations at point of sale? I mean, these are some of the things that as a retailer you can be asking yourself, and also as a CPG be asking your retail partners what they're doing. And again, for CPGs, are you participating in positive file validations with stores who can offer that level of validation? Just some things to keep in mind. So again, what else can be done? We hear a lot about digital growth, and it is true for sure that digital has grown considerably over the last several years. But we still need to keep in mind that paper redemptions are still approximately 75% of the promotions that are being validated. And in most cases, the payment decision is made after the promotion has been accepted in the store. So we're suggesting, and what we'll talk a little bit about today, is that we work together to help retailers move payment controls from somewhere along this area in the process to right here as the consumer is scanning their coupon. Instead of fraudulent offers being identified after the retailer has taken it, again, we want to spend some time talking about how we can move the validations, all the validations, positive, negative, and complete GS1 validations to point of sale. As a retailer, if you think about how you can support moving payment decisions, pre-offer acceptance versus after the offer has been accepted, you would be including family code validation, you would be doing real-time fraud identification at the point of sale, you would do real-time positive and negative file validation at the point of sale, you would be able to identify near real-time new counterfeit offers to add to the existing counterfeit file, you would be identifying the offers, capturing the stores and the products that were purchased during that time. So again, what else can be done? Retailers and manufacturers working together to move validations before the offer is accepted versus after. And I'll turn it over to John Robertson with ICN, who will quickly take us through a real example of how the positive file and negative validations can actually reduce fraudulent coupon acceptance. And after that, we'll have a real quick summary and get into our panel. John?
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that. We're going to get into some actual examples, but the whole thing that can happen with real-time validation is we take the decision whether I should accept this coupon or not out of the hands of the cashier. And the cashiers could be new on the job that day, have no idea what a fraudulent coupon looks like. And we can eliminate their guesswork and validate it at real-time speed, not slowing down the checkout at all. We're going to look at a couple examples here of these are actual fraudulent coupons that, like Beth said and Kit showed examples. This is growing. There are more being reported every year, and the CIC file is not shrinking in any way. The problem with this is it's a huge cost to the manufacturers, as we'll see in some of these examples, but also the retailers get in this war, if you will, between you accepted a coupon, but it was fraudulent, you can't get reimbursed for it, and it just starts a whole settlement, disagreement, we'll call it. And I just want to give you a couple examples of some data that ICN has collected. This is an example of what happens when you use a positive file. This is just a 20-store test that we did over a 30-day period with one retailer that was nationally represented. So we had a few stores across all of, I don't want to say all 50 states, but we did have some stores in Hawaii. I didn't get to go visit, but you can see the positive file identified a tremendous number, 91 fraudulent coupons that were not previously identified. By using the positive file, and these are store numbers, we don't want to talk about what the retailer was, but you can see some of the stores were hit pretty hard. Out of the 91 that were identified during this 30-day period, store 3597 had a large portion of that, almost half of them. In the store test, again, there's just a limited number of stores, but 7 of them represented this 91, and they were from all over the country, right? Pennsylvania was the 3597 store, but we went to all 4 corners. And the reason this happened is because of what Kit was talking about. they shared these fraudulent coupons that were newly created, moments before they took them into the store, if you will, and they were shared across the web. And of course, we got all four corners. We went from Pennsylvania with the high one, but from Florida to Washington, right? So an example of just how quickly that the fraud can be communicated through the fraudsters. And again, all of this was identified, the positive file, and then the manufacturer was able to turn it over to the CIC to get it onto their negative or early warning device. This is an example of how real-time validation can help you eliminate the fraud. Again, we were in a test environment with a retailer. We first set up these test stores. We saw almost 10% of the coupons that were submitted were fraudulent. It's like 1.5% of the actual count. But when you look over here, you see that it's over 10% when you look at the value of the coupon. The fraudsters aren't wasting their time making 50-cent and dollar coupons. They are really hitting it hard. $5 is kind of a below average, and I'm going to show you some examples that are just unbelievable. But here, this was done in 17. This is a test. I went back to those same stores last month and looked at how are they doing today. And you can see we went from 10% to less than 1.2% of the total fraud submitted. The fraudsters have decided to give up on this retailer, and they're going elsewhere because they keep getting rejected. And this is the payout, if you will, of having a real-time validation process in the store. Here's an example of just the value of the coupons the fraudsters will create, and the benefit of using a positive file. In this case, the first $50 coupon was redeemed with one of our manufacturers that was participating in a positive file, and we were able to get it identified as fraudulent and stop the redemption. Another one was a $25 coupon, and we'll talk about the manufacturer, but this was during the Halloween period. Yes, it was a candy coupon. Can you imagine a $25 coupon off a bag of candy? So it was a big hit. It was only in circulation for a minimum amount of time because we used, we call it AI, right? We used an alert system to tell us, when do you see a high value coupon that has a high level of redemption? And that hit my desk. I was able to call up the manufacturer and say, hey, do you guys have a $25 coupon out there? They said, oh, no way. And what we were able to do in our environment is I went in and immediately identified that coupon as fraud. And so that point on, we started rejecting it. But at the same time, over $2,850 were redeemed in just a minimum number of stores. So how fast the fraud can hurt the retailer and the manufacturer. Here's an example of, this is one transaction, right? Recently happened, store 3142. And what happened here, we had 5 positive file misses, right? So that meant this is a coupon and these values that were not on our positive file. And that means identified as fraud. The manufacturer told us it was fraud. And at the same time, there were 16 fraudulent coupons used in the same transaction. Just a real criminal use of the system. We were able to identify the fraud that the manufacturer and immediately identify that and turn that over to the CIC. And because of the CIC's file, we were able to reject these 16 fraudulent transactions, and the fraudster walked out empty-handed. With that, I can turn it over back to you, Beth, for a little summary.
All right, thanks. We're almost to the panel discussion, which I'm sure everybody is waiting for. Just remember before we get to them that promotion fraud is growing. We hear this from both retailers and CPGs that we talk with. They both see this as a problem. Keep up the good work in the design. Work with your partners to implement real-time positive and negative file validations, pre-offer acceptance. And with that, we'll turn it back to John to start the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, we've got a panel of all-star experts here on couponing. So The format is simple. I'll ask the questions, and I'll direct the questions to specific panelists to answer them. So let's start off with an easy one here. It seems to me that the fraudsters are getting smarter. So how can brands and retailers stay ahead of them? Curtis Jackson, why don't you take that one?
Sure, thanks, John. You know, they are getting smarter. They've learned how to kind of stay ahead of all of the systems and processes we have in place today to stop them. So for me, the thing to stay ahead of it is look to get to a positive file, the thing we've been talking about here, you know, moving to that positive verification so that we can check against the file of all the valid coupons, and anything that doesn't hit that would show up as a fraud. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else want to add to that?
Sure. I'd like to call on John Morgan of the Association of Coupon Professionals for his take.
Yeah, thanks, John. Well, the industry has developed tools and resources to enable best practice coupons, and we do have committees working with that, and it's committees from all aspects of the industry, whether it's retailers, manufacturers, solution providers. I'll throw out an open invitation if you want to get involved. Talk to me. But there's lots of decision points when you're developing a coupon, whether it's the planning, what vehicle to use, what face value, and all of these have, you know, fraudulent risk considerations. But you also have to balance that with the consumer experience. So, you know, whether you're, and then the creation piece about the execution, you got to get it right. You got to be using data bar, using the full data bar, have the picture and the text match up, so you get a good validation. Retailers, you need to validate at the full data bar level. If you're doing that, it gives you your best opportunity to execute a good coupon.
Excellent. Kit Leonard, have our two speakers missed anything?
No, I mean, yeah, you guys did a great job of covering it. I'll just say, obviously, keeping embedded with the fraudsters is really important to inform what's going on. But I definitely think we need industry solutions to really combat this on a high level to make an impact, because it's really a collaborative effort.
Yeah, this is Alex Coda.
Sure, Alex.
Just a real quick note. Retailers are very reluctant to update software because of the capital expense. So if you can find a solution to these issues that's not a standalone, but it's integrated into your process, that's the solution that you need. And those types of applications are very critical to moving forward and eliminating the fraud of the coupons.
Okay, Alex, staying with you, here's a question. For anybody who's used a positive file, how has it helped? What do you think?
Oh, it's significant in the fact that in Kmart's heyday, we had 2,300 stores, and you know, we were in the top 10 Kmart coupon responders, and you're dependent on that operator to determine if that's a good coupon or a bad coupon, and the operators are timed on their transaction throughput. So the emphasis is process as fast as possible. So enabling a process that detects good coupons from bad coupons is very critical in the fact of accepting additional expense. So these types of technologies are very important to the retailer.
Okay, Curtis, anything to add?
Yeah, from our perspective, you know, we've been using a positive offer verification process in the stores that ICN is working with, and we've seen a significant decrease. I mean, to the tune of 80% decrease from what we had seen before we were using the positive offer verification. So for us, that's the key, and that's why, you know, my answer earlier was really focused on that. You know, counterfeit fraud is a huge increase. Seen a huge increase over the last year. I mean, to the tune of 50 to 60%. And at the same time, where we were using the positive offer verification in the stores where we could, we've seen an 80% decrease. So it's just an amazing tool to enable it. And as Alex said, it's a system that identifies that you're not counting on that person to try to do it, because they just can't, right? The the counterfeits are just too good to catch with the eye.
Okay. Moving on here, what does a real-time positive file paper validation do for settlement that the current process cannot do? Beth, what do you think?
Thinking about that, real-time validation that happens at the point of sale in the retail outlet is going to allow the fraudulent coupons not to be accepted, which is really the way to combat fraud in the best possible way. If you validate at point of sale that it's a fraudulent offer and something comes up and it notifies the cashier, they can talk with the consumer and actually give that offer back. And as John Morgan noted, it's really important to be able to balance your consumer experience. And the other thing to keep in mind is that someone is out that money and using positive and negative files, which can reduce it greatly. If you don't apply the controls, then again, either the manufacturer or the retailer is going to be out money, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So again, real-time validation.
Okay, Alex, anything to add to that?
No, I think it was pretty well covered. The abilities of the retailer to control this is minimal without some kind of technology to support. You know, you've got a person that's at the registers. It's just very, very difficult. And once it gets processed, now it takes 45 days, 60 days, 90 days to determine who owes. And so you're out money. And money and time are not in support of the retailer.
Okay, all righty. What are some of the challenges, do you think, to getting positive file validation up and going, and what are some of the suggested ways to overcome them? John Robinson, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean it's an acceptance, and it's a new way to go, and it really takes the support of both the CPGs and the retailers. Maybe I'll pass this over to Curtis if you want to add a little something to that.
Sure. Yeah, I think the key is as you said, the cooperation right between the manufacturer and the retailer, and kind of coming together in that collaborative spirit to try to shut this down, because it is something that's costing us all money. It's something we're spending a lot of time on. You know, things that have to go through the system and flow through are all costing us all, you know, time, money, effort, frustration, all those kind of things. And I think if we can come together and kind of figure out the best way to bring this to life, it would really solve one of our bigger problems in the kind of the coupon community.
Sure. And Beth, would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. And I think another challenge is just understanding what's truly happening in a retailer's at a retailer's point of sale. Frequently when we talk to retailers and you ask them what type of validation they're doing, they're like, oh, we do that, or oh, we do that, because they think that they do. But in the back-end processing, they realize that they're getting adjustments for counterfeits when they thought they were using the counterfeit file. So just really understanding and being realistic about what's happening, and then working together with partners to connect and apply these controls is really important.
Okay.
This is Alex.
Yes, Alex.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in a little bit here. I helped Kmart Corporation develop point of sale with the vendors, scanning barcodes. There was major pushbacks from the manufacturers on barcoding. Why do we need this? Why should we do this? Well, where are we today? This is the same sort of thing. It's the acceptance of change. It's difficult to change a culture to say, oh, we've printed paper coupons for years and years and years, and you know, we've had these expenses. Well, you can fix it, and here's a means and a way to fix it. So it's a cultural issue that the information is already out there. CPG is providing the the same information that's needed for the good file, bad file to their redemption facilities. So it's just a means of changing the stream of information to make it work for the retailer, and actually supports the CPG in being able to develop programs and then be able to project what the redemption is without with minimal intervention with the fraudulent guys. So.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Keeping with the retailer end of this, Alex, how does real-time validation help the speed of checkout?
Okay. Let's say you have a customer that has 20 coupons. What we request of the operator is look at each coupon to see if that's in the purchase, if it's the same product, and then scan and accept it. Removing that time and that decision-making process has speeded up the checkout significantly. In the retail environment, in a discount to mass, that's very important. So now you're accepting valid coupons for the valid item, and then rejecting things that aren't going to be an expense to you in the long term. It speeds up the checkouts, removes the decision-making process from the operator.
So real-time validation will eliminate the cashier's need to make a decision about accepting or rejecting if the coupon is fraudulent?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we've seen that. John could speak to this. We had many measurements of what it was prior and post, and store operations bought into it significantly, and the financial people saw the impact to the financial cost to it, and overall it worked very well for us. Okay, you called on John. We have two Johns, John Morgan and John Robertson.
John Robertson.
Either of you would like to jump in?
It's okay. John Morgan, John Robertson, care to comment?
I'll pass to Robertson.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we got three Johns here. Thank you, Alex, for the strong support. Yeah, it's just a matter of the retailer's operation being drastically improved. When I first presented to the store ops people, they were very excited about the opportunity, and they saw it as a real customer enhancement. If you're behind that person with 20 coupons, you're going to be able to get out of there quickly, and it's improved the whole speed of checkout.
Okay, excellent. Turning to the manufacturer side, can real-time validation reduce coupon expenses for the manufacturer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Curtis?
Yeah, absolutely. It's removing that fraudulent coupon, focusing in on the good items, the good coupons that we're intending for purchase, significantly reduces the expense. We don't have to worry about invoice deductions off of those coupons that couldn't be verified. All of those things make a big difference to us and allow us to have more money available to do other coupons or other activities that we don't have to pay for these fraudulent ones.
Okay. On the retailer side, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak too far, but the P&Gs, the Kimberly-Clark, the John, the big guys are on top of it and monitor it. But the medium to smaller vendors, in Kmart's heyday, we passed that expense on to them. And we were a big enough company to be able to leverage that and say, too bad, you pay it, and it worked. In today's environment, not so much. Everybody has a budget, knows what exactly it should be in the redemptions and stuff, and very, very difficult to pass on that expense. So the retailer now absorbs it. And with margins being squeezed, as everybody knows, prices go up, customer pays more.
Okay. Curtis, I have a question for you here. Can identifying fraud in real time help protect the impact on brands?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the planned execution of the promotion is always budgeted and forecast, and things that drive those to higher levels obviously help drive more work and rework into the system about what's going on. So if we can limit those, it would be a significant improvement for our brand planning, promotion planning activities.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I have a question for everybody, and John Morgan, you haven't chimed in enough, I don't think. I'm sorry I didn't call on you earlier enough.
All right.
But what do you see as the biggest challenge in combating promotion fraud? As the Executive Director of the Association of Coupon Professionals, you see a lot. I've learned a lot over the years. What do you think?
Well, a couple things. One, on the last couple of comments from both Curtis and Alex, one of the things we strive for as an industry is making coupons, let's face it, over time, they've been the most viable promotion. It goes back to the 1800s, the promotions, the coupon promotions, is that we're trying to make them as viable as possible going forward, and fraud's having a negative impact on that. And you're seeing that with less attractive offers and shorter duration periods, and trying to choose your vehicles over the risk consideration over what would be the most effective way to reach your consumer. So, that's what's the challenge in front of us. And I think the biggest thing we can do is, execute best practices, because, cheaters are cowards. They're taking the easiest path, and they're going to go at the weakest link. So if you're a manufacturer and you make a mistake on a coupon, they're going to pounce on it. And if you're a retailer, you're not reading full data bar and have an updated family code list to validate, they figure out where the places are where you should go and shouldn't go, and what's the easiest path to slip these coupons through. So that's the execution of best practices is the biggest challenge in front of us.
Okay. Beth, what do you think?
I think the biggest challenge in front of us, again, is just getting retailers and manufacturers, more retailers and manufacturers wanting to look for new ways to combat fraud. And again, I think the number one place to do that is before the offer is accepted in the retail outlet. So just having more focus on that and working with partners to get that accomplished is key.
Okay, excellent. Kit, this is what you do all the time. What do you see as the biggest challenge in combating promotion fraud?
Yeah, so I sort of agree with what everyone said. Our biggest challenge right now is just sort of keeping track of the fraudsters. Getting law enforcement involvement is difficult as it's coupon cases. Obviously, there are some case precedents, but it's difficult to explain the clearing process and sort of how coupons work. So continually to engage law enforcement is just our main priority, and keeping track of the fraudsters. And, we can't really anticipate the fraud they're going to commit, but making sure we disseminate that information to our clients in the industry is really just our top priority.
Okay, excellent. We have some questions from the audience I'd like to just throw out to the panel. One here is, what is the percentage of fraud coming from paper coupons versus digital coupons? Anyone?
I can take that if nobody else wants to jump in.
Sure, Kit.
Kurt, I'll jump in first. Y'all jump in first. We're seeing, fraud 4, 5, 6% as far as number of coupons, and then on paper. So it's significantly increasing over the last few years, and typically the dollar values on those coupons are pretty high. So it's a pain point that is escalating quickly for us.
Okay,
digital,
excellent.
we've seen very little. We've seen very little on digital to date. I'm not saying it won't happen, but to date we haven't seen much on the digital side.
Okay. Another question from the audience. What abuses can be prevented at the POS? And whoever answers, please identify yourself first.
Hi, this is Beth. Some of the abuses that can be stopped at point of sale are scanning the same offer multiple times when there's just one coupon. There's a lot of expired coupons that get through. There are a lot of counterfeit coupons that get through. Validating to the family code is something also that can be validated at point of sale with additional controls. And those are the ones that come to mind initially.
And this is John on the to piggyback on Beth's point about, yes, you need manufacturers load up the data bar. When you plan that out, make sure that you have agreement between the brand packaging you're using, the text on the coupon, as well as the barcode. Retailers, have an accurate family barcode. Read the full data bar. The best in practice I've seen from retailers is they're trying to automate their retailer policy into their point of sale. So, if they have a limit on the number of coupons of the same type, or number of coupons period, or when it kicks to the supervisor for a approval, automate as much as that stuff. Take that decision away from the cashier and put it into your point of sale system.
Okay, a couple more questions here from the audience. One is, how does a manufacturer get their coupons on the positive file?
Any of our connected stores, any manufacturer who is interested, John and our email are both up. And if you just reach out to us, we can give you the information needed to get connected to the stores that we have connected that utilize positive file today.
Okay, well, the person who asked that question had a comment. This sounds like something that every manufacturer should do, in my opinion. So that's interesting.
Boy,
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, another question. There was not any conversation about self-checkout. Even if a retailer has controls in place at regular registers, are the same controls in place at self-checkout where speed is critical and fraudsters see it as a weak link? Well, that's a big question.
That is a big question.
I just want to jump in really quickly from the fraudster perspective. So when fraud really started out and self-checkout started to be a really popular thing, we saw a flock of the fraud being committed at self-checkout. And then as retailers really picked up on that activity, we saw a shift sort of back to using just the regular team member or operator of the register. So while there is fraud that still happens at self-checkout, I would sort of disagree that as we get more aware of it, it's sort of shifting back to the traditional checkout.
Yeah,
okay.
And John, we've had to address this in the past year. We did a self-checkout document a couple of years ago. It rose back up, as Kit said, and we addressed it again. It is a different process, and you need to have different controls in place, and there's recommendations for the retailers on how to handle that when you've got the consumers doing the scanning.
And from ICN Solution, I was just going to say, we provide a solution that works for both normal registers and your self-checkout. I mean, we would look at those individually, but we have solutions for both of those.
Okay, excellent. Anyone else?
I'm going to just add that one of our retailers has actually really put a stopgap, but it's a sure fix. Self-checkout customers have to take their coupons to the attending cashier that's looking at that line of self-checkouts. So they immediately have a human that is now touching the coupons. But it uses, as Beth said, the same our real positive file and all of our fraud real-time validation process. But they're handed over to a store employee.
Okay, excellent. We've sort of come into the end of our session here. I'm just wondering if any of the panelists have any final comments, perhaps something that wasn't said that should be said. And I'll open the floor to everyone. Please identify yourself when you speak.
Well, this is Alex, and I want to open the spectrum of the positive-negative file. Once you get into that technology, you can now send coupon information directly to your processor daily. Currently, my former retail process was we mailed paper coupons into MCH weekly. Packages that got lost. They didn't, things get delayed and the coupon expires. Once you get into this environment, you can now be technology advanced, so a paper coupon looks almost as a digital coupon. So the turnaround time on your redemption is significantly quicker versus 90 days, 120 days. We're talking weeks. Plus, it's streamlined to the point where, the invoicing and all that is done, more efficiently. So there are other ramifications to this. You have better processing and efficiency at the front end. You eliminate the costs of fraudulent coupons. It also detects things like extreme couponing, and due to how the coupon people are identified, you can now start identifying them and eliminating them from your acceptance things. So there's a lot more than just 50-cent coupon is not good. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is Beth.
Okay.
I would just like
Beth?
to thank all of our panelists and presenters for helping us go through how brands and retailers can reduce coupon fraud. And I hope that everyone on the phone, again, will work with their partners, the retailers, and the manufacturers will work together to increase positive file validation real time, because until we can stop it from being redeemed at a retail outlet, there's still fraud that someone is liable for. So,
excellent. Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for this discussion. We've had many lead marketing conferences, but this is the first lively, freewheeling panel discussion we've ever had, and I think it went very well. I've learned an awful lot, and I hope the attendees have learned a lot as well. So for more information and to keep the dialogue going, I think that I would address the attendees to attend the annual convention of the Association of Coupon Professionals. John Morgan, you want to chime in there when that is and the website for your organization?
Yes, so it's couponpros.org, and the conference is going to be April 21st to 23rd. We're going to be at the Drake Hotel in downtown Chicago in 2020.
Excellent. And Beth and John Robinson from ICN, the website is icn-net.com for more information about this topic. And I want to thank all of you for your input, for a very fascinating discussion on a topic that doesn't get enough airtime, I don't think, or even in print. And we're happy to bring it to our audience today. Thank you all.
thank you, John.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.